Hello everyone, how's everybody? From the last video we have started the basics of Python, and now we have a fairly basic understanding of working of Python. We can actually use loops. We know how your data types work and how these data types have been built in Python. We also talked about built-in Python modules, and we also talked about functions as well. Taking forward from that particular video, today we shall be talking about uh, conditional statements. As its name suggests, conditional statements are if, elif, else kind of examples. What really happens is whenever you want to put some conditions in Python programming language, you will have to use if, elif, and else. We are going to see how these things actually work in Python. So let me actually fire up Visual Studio Code for us, and now let us just open new file. So over here it will ask us which programming language that you want to target this file to. So we shall select Python, and then let's just save this file as first. Okay, so we have the file. So let me actually zoom in a bit that you can see it clearly. Now let us just understand how this if else work actually. So yes, okay, so if, elif, and else. All right, so what really happens is, say you have something over here, you will put condition 1 over here, and then there will be a code block for it, and then in elif you will put condition 2 over here, and then you will have some code block of it, and then finally you have code block of else. Okay, so let me actually tell you that whenever you are nesting your if else like this, what really happens is the code runs from top to bottom, and whatever the condition is true, that code will be executed. What I mean by that is whichever the condition which comes first to be true, like say this condition 1 is true, then this code block will be executed. However, say condition 1 is false, then this condition 2 will be executed, and then it will be actually checked if condition 2 is condition 2 is true or not, and if it is true, then this code block will be executed. However, say both of these conditions are not true, then this else block will be executed. So we actually put this else block to definitely get an output. Say you have a lot of if elifs. Okay, say you have a lot of if elifs. So it might be possible that you may have put an erroneous code. Then in that case what will happen is none of these conditions will be met, and in that case your else code will be executed. So what we really do is we put some print statement in else. Generally we put a print statement in else to show user that something wrong has happened, like all the above conditions have not been met. That actually means something is wrong with your conditions, so please check them. Okay, so that's basic stuff about your if elif. And now let's talk about some code. Okay, so let me actually leave the drawing mode, and let us just try to talk about the code. So let us just write a simple code. So let me write if 10 is less than 5, then print this, or let me actually write first if. Okay, so now as you can actually see that whatever I have written over here is not true. 10 is not less than 5, and that is why this code block will not be executed. So I can actually confirm that by running this code. So yes, so as you can see that the file has been run, but this code hasn't put any output on the screen. The reason is the condition is not true, that is why nothing is being printed out. But if I change 10 to 1, now this condition will be fulfilled, like this condition is true now, so this code will be executed. So let us just see that, and as you can see that I have the output as first if. Okay, now similarly you can actually write elif as well. Say elif 1 is greater than 2, print elif. Okay, so this is elif, code from elif. And then let's write else, print, this is else. Okay, so let's just write else. So as I have already told you, we put else over here only because, or most of the cases, to put a statement over here, print statement or some error code over here, which shows that all of the above conditions have not been met. That is why this else code has been executed. Okay, so as you can see over here that this condition is true, that is why this code will be run, and hence this if elif nest will be broken, and then your compiler or interpreter will just go out of this if elif nest. So whenever it sees one condition which has been met, like the answer is true, then the code will be executed, that particular code, and then the interpreter will just jump out of this nest. Okay, as you can see over here that this condition is true, and that is why this code will be executed, and then this interpreter will just jump out, so none of these codes will be executed. Okay, so that's the beauty of this else this if elif else nest. Okay, now suppose if I write 10 again over here, then this next elif will be taken into consideration, and if I run it, then you can actually see that, okay, so something is wrong over here. Yes, so the wrong thing is that this condition has not been met. Okay, so since 10 is not less than 5, so this returns false, that means this code will not be executed. Then we have elif. In elif we have 1 greater than 2, which is not true, that is why this code will not be executed. That is why we kind of reach to else, which has to be definitely executed, and the reason is that your else is executed only when all of the above conditions have not been met. Okay, so now let us just try to change the conditions over here. So if I put 2 over here, what do you think what will happen? So I would ask you to pause the video for a moment and just try to think about it. Okay, so those of you who could solve this and then congratulations. However, for those of you who couldn't solve it, the reason is or the answer of this question will be this code will be executed, and the reason is that 2 is not less than 2, it is equal to 2, that is why this condition is false again. So if I run this code, we'll see that else code is being executed, right? So similarly, if I just write 3 over here, then you will actually see that this condition is true now, this 3 is greater than 2 is true, and that is why if I run this code, it says that elif, so elif, this code has been executed. All right, okay, so that's some basic stuff with if elif else. Now let's kind of put some more stuff into it, let's bring some masala into it. So now let's put some functions in it. So let me actually write function 1, and it will take a number as its parameter, and then let's just write a loop for I in range number, print I. Okay, now over here, as you can see, I have a function, Now what I will do is I'll actually try to put that function over here, or call that function from here. Let me actually call the function from here. Let's write 10. Okay, function 1 10. So now you will actually see that elif is being printed, and the reason is, as you might have already guessed, that this condition is not true, but this condition is true. That is why this elif code is being executed. Now one more thing, suppose this condition is true and this condition is also true. So what do you think, which condition or which code block will be executed? Okay, so if you could answer this question, very good. And the answer is this code will be executed, and then the interpreter will just jump out of this nest. The reason is, as I have already told you, whichever condition which is met first, that code block is executed, and then interpreter just jumps out of this nest. And the reason behind it is that the interpreter kind of thinks that you are putting something in if elif else nest, which you think that only one of the condition will be met, and then your code will be your interpreter will kind of move on from that nest. Okay, so generally what really happens is, say I want to write if elif nest based on the age. So say I write an age over here, so age could be 10. Okay, so I write a code block, say age is less than 10. Then what will happen is just print out. So let me actually comment this out. Okay, we'll see this later on. Print less than 10. Okay, so I have printed less than 10. Say age is less than 20, then print out less than 20. Similarly, in elif we can actually print greater than 20. Okay, so now as you can actually see over here that if age is less than 10, so let me actually write it over here. Okay, so we have age. Okay, so age is varying from 0 to say it may be 100. Okay, it may vary from 0 to 100. Now we have these intervals 0 10 then 20 and then greater than 20. Now as you can see over here, if age is less than 10, that means this condition will be true, like it will be true for these many numbers. Okay, and then if I write age is less than 20, okay, then this will be true for these many age groups. Okay, similarly if I write finally we have else will actually take into account all these above numbers. Now if this code block is being executed, that means I'm covering all these numbers. Then if suppose this code block is not executed, then I'm covering from age less than 20, then this code block or this age group has been covered. And then finally with the help of else we have covered all these above ages, ages greater than 20. So this is how your if elif nest works. Okay, so you have to actually take into account how you are going to put it into the logic. All right, so now let us just move forward and let's call this function 10. Let's call this function. So I just want to show you that you can actually use different stuff with different kind of functionalities of Python in uses with other functionalities. So in this code block, as you can see, I'm calling the function with this argument 10 from over here. Okay, so now if I run this code, then actually you will see that it says less than 20, and the reason is that this condition is false because it will put 10 over here, then 10 is less than 10 is false. That is why it will go over here, and then this code block will be executed. But if I write over here as 9, a is equals 9, then this code is being executed. Okay, so now actually let me actually show you why this is being done. Okay, so when age is 9, 9 is less than 10, this condition is true, and hence this code block will be executed. And then we are actually calling this function 1, and then it will send 10 in this number, and then we will be executing this loop for I in range number is 10, and that is why this print statement will run for 10 times. Okay, that is what we have seen in the output. All right, so this is how you can actually use different functionalities of Python with other functionalities such as if, elif, or you can actually write loop outside and then function inside. Okay, so this can also be done, but not over here because we are calling this function. Okay, okay, now let's talk about this very interesting feature of functions, which is arguments and keyword arguments. So your functions can take infinite number of arguments if you use this arguments and keyword arguments features. So let me actually show you. Suppose if I have a simple function, let me call it func1. Okay, so it will take args. Okay, that actually means kind of expecting many arguments. Okay, so let me actually tell you what it actually means. All right, so this star args actually takes infinite number of arguments from the main code. Say if whenever I call this func, say, okay, I call this func with different values, say a, b, c, d. I do not actually know how many values will the user be giving. That is why I'm expecting the infinite number of values. That is why I'm using this args, and what it actually does is it takes all these values and converts them into tuple. Okay, which we can actually confirm. I'll actually show you in a moment. Okay, this is what it actually converts it to. So let us just see it over here in the action. So let me actually print this args out. Okay, we are not going to do anything other than that, and let us just call this function func1. Okay, so let's just write 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, so when you execute this code, you will see that it returns this 1 2 3 4 5, and that is what a tuple is. Okay, so it returns a tuple, so I'm printing a tuple over here. And if you actually want to know the type of it, you can actually write type over here. If you run this code now, it will tell you that okay, all right, so I'll have to actually write print over here. Okay, now if you run this code, it will return that it is of tuple type, class is tuple. Okay, all right, so where can this be useful? Okay, so it can be useful when you do not actually know how many number of parameters or arguments will the user be providing us, such as say we have your class. Say I do not know how many students are present in one particular class, then I would expect that there could be a varying number of students in one particular class. Say on one day there may be 10 students, on another day there could be 7 students, and so on. So in that case, what I can have over here is I can have different number of arguments. So that is why I will use this arguments, and by using this argument I won't be breaking my code if I had a different number of students in one particular day. So say if I make this code for 2 students, I'll write say student 1 and student 2 and so on. Say I write this for 2 students, so let me actually just write student 1. Okay, now if I just pass this 1 and 2, then there will be no issue. However, say the number of student varies. Say I pass 3 students over here, then what will happen is it will tell me that take func1 takes 2 position arguments but 3 were given. So this kind of errors you shall be getting, and we want to avoid these errors. That is why we shall be using this argument feature over here. Okay, so let me actually write args over here, and then we can actually write args over here. Okay, all right. So similarly, what you can actually do is you can actually write loop also over here. So for num in args, as I will told you that your tuples are iterable data types, so I can actually print whatever that is written in args. Okay, so if I pass say 1 2 3 4 and 5 and run this code, then what I can see over here is I have 1 2 3 4 and 5. Okay, similarly we have another feature which is your keyword arguments. Let us just see what keyword arguments does. Okay, let me actually comment everything out. Now let us just write keyword arguments func2, let's call it func2, and then let me write keyword arguments. Okay, so what this keyword argument does is it takes positional values or whatever that is being given in the form of arguments, however with the keyword. Okay, let me actually show you what it actually means. Okay, so let us just print whatever that is written in keyword arguments. Okay, all right. Now okay, I made a mistake over here. Yeah. Let's call it. Now for calling this, we'll have to actually provide these keywords as well. Okay, so as I have already told you that there is another dictionary data type. So in dictionaries what we have is key value pairs. Okay, so in dictionaries we have say a, and then this is 10 say. So this is your key and then this is your value. Okay, similarly when we use this keyword arguments, what we pass in argument is your key, and then it will also have a value. Okay, and then this will go in this and it will return a dictionary over here. Okay, so whenever I want to print the name, what I'll do is I'll do something like keyword args name. Okay, this is name, this is n. All right, so it will print whatever the value is which corresponds to this name. So let us just try to see how it actually works. Okay, so I'll just pass name say telematics, and then I'll just print everything, and then you can actually see that I have name and then we have value telematics. Okay, so if we want to print whatever that name has, then we'll actually write name over here, and then if you run this code it will return telematics. Okay, so telematics is the value which is stored against key name. All right, so this was a pretty good feature in Python, which can be actually used when you don't know what kind of uh, keys that you should be providing for your functions, right? So you can actually put these names in the documentation telling how to use that particular function, and then you can actually define everything like this in your main function, and you won't have to actually define everything like this. Okay, so the best thing that this can be used for is, say you don't actually know, say we have name, and then we have, say name is something, okay, say a, then we have class, not class, let's write class, something like this, because uh, a small letter class is your keyword for class feature. Okay, so now class could be, say 10. Okay, now these are default arguments. Okay, I hope you know about default arguments or default parameters actually. So these are default values. Now these values could be misplaced, right? So whenever user uses these functions, if these values are misplaced, then what will happen is this function will break, this code will break. And the reason is this class is of integer, or sorry, this has to be integer type because it is class, it is integer type. However, your name will be string type. So suppose someone passed something like class over here, class say 11 over here, and then name over here, then what will happen is we have switched the values of these different data types. Then whatever that you have written in this code block will or may break, and that is why this may not be the best way to put the default arguments, okay, or default parameters. That is why I would suggest you to use this keyword arguments feature. Okay, so this was a pretty basic introduction to arguments and keyword arguments, and we have almost covered all the basics of Python. And from the next class we shall be talking about classes and how classes actually work. Okay, so till then, good luck. I hope you would practice every problem that we have seen with Python, and you will try to use these features in your coding. Okay, so I hope to see you in the next one.